So, Ronak, I mean, let's talk about some of the experiences you've had and some of the courageous decisions you made, because you've had a very interesting career. You really worked for some iconic companies. Well, I mean, obviously here in the Bay Area in Silicon Valley, but also globally, right? And so when you came to the United States, is this how you envisioned your career, or was it more one step at a time? How did you start building your foray into tech and tech here in the Bay Area?
Oh, well, yeah. First of all, good evening. Yeah, I mean, I think never thought of my career would turn out to be like this. Initially, it was primarily, just let's come to US and let's do something good. So that's how it started. But I think it's a typical journey, H1 to green card to citizenship.
Yeah.
And once that critical milestones were achieved, it really kind of, I was very intrigued by the environment in Valley. Was fortunate to be always in Valley. I landed in Valley, and the culture around, like, you meet with people who are really doing some good stuff, innovative stuff, and that always kind of kept me interested that, okay, once I achieve my green card milestone, it would be good to explore this journey. And that's how I kind of started. Once the green card was achieved, it was a good opportunity. Initially, I got with Walmart, and that was when Walmart was still a startup, Walmart.com. Before Walmart.
Oh, no kidding! Really? Okay.
Before Walmart acquired it, so it was a great experience, and then I think that kind of shaped my journey from there on.
So let's talk about that. You ended up at Walmart.com, and then that was I'm assuming their initial foray into online. Is that correct? I mean, they're a massive giant now, but you were there in the early days.
Yeah, interestingly, earlier Walmart had tried, I think, a couple of times to go online to compete with Amazon, but
really? Okay.
For whatever reason, it did not work out. And I think then Walmart acquired a small company in the online space. It was more, I would say, that team acquisition and some small property acquisition, and that's when I had joined, and it was pretty interesting experience actually. I mean, I think because it was a startup culture, it was totally maintained separately than the headquarters, so there was a very big culture difference. And I still remember my first Thanksgiving Day sale was somewhere in maybe less than $500,000.
Oh, really? The first one is probably in the billions today, but the first one was less than $500,000.
And then it just took off. And now it is like, I think more than probably few stores combined in one day, kind of.
So that was interesting, because that is a family, well, it's not publicly, but it was a very family dominated business, right? Arkansas. It was interesting they kept those worlds separate. Was that a smart move, do you think, to keep those worlds separate?
Yeah, I think so. I think they probably, I mean, the way I would think is the management learned the lesson from previous attempts.
Okay.
That, and when I'm guessing that probably that is how they wanted to make sure that this time it is successful.
So you came in at a super interesting time, right? I mean, they tried a lot, and then you guys had success with it. So it's fun to be there when the rocket ship took off, right?
Absolutely. As I said, my first one was about less than $500,000, and then subsequently, as soon as the first Thanksgiving was done, I still remember that we started seeing the daily kind of numbers to be much higher than what we had seen for the previous or the first 6 months.
And were you getting great feedback? Was that an exciting time for everyone to see this thing take off?
Oh, absolutely. It was. We were getting, let me put it this way, Walmart.com was getting noticed in headquarters.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what counts, right? Between the marketplace and headquarters, those two things count. But Walmart.com was not your only iconic brand. I mean, Netflix, you had a little stint at Netflix in the early days. Is that correct?
That was during my earlier days prior to Walmart, when I was consulting with Netflix, and it was like, I was there when Netflix released its first DVD, the red envelope.
Yeah.
And it was a phenomenal experience. For me, it was like the first, I would say, a major brand kind of launch experience. The energy was great. Everybody was driven. I still remember Reed Hastings kind of, coming to the podium, giving a speech. I forgot the name of the president that time, Mark, I believe, giving this speech and predicting that one day Netflix would be the way people would watch media.
So this was the beginning. You were there, you said at the launch, is that correct? Right around the launch?
When the first DVD was shipped.
No, wow.
In the red envelope.
Okay.
So, it was interesting, definitely.
What was the culture like then? I mean, now it's a massive empire, right? But back then it sounds like it was still young and strapped, team of people. And
it's a phenomenal culture. I mean, if you think about it, I'm not sure if you've read there have been the Netflix culture presentation that are available on net. Mm-hmm. I remember it was like that from day one.
So they maintained it. They managed to keep that.
Yeah, and that is what amazes me the most. That some of these companies that I worked with, like Netflix or AWS, even to some extent Facebook, I would think that what they started with, the culture that they started with, they have been able to maintain it even after this big of a size.
How do you do that?
It is interesting. I have always asked that question. How do they do that? I don't have the right answer, but I believe it is because how you hire the right people and how those people bring the next level of, hiring. I think that's what matters. At least at Facebook, I noticed that very closely. That it started with a very close-knit group of people, all pretty much from Harvard or maybe Stanford. But they maintained that, higher level of kind of experience or kind of talent throughout that hiring process, even though it is still growing. So I think that might be the key.
It might be the key. I mean, so when you were at Netflix, did you think it would be as big as it became?
No, not at all.
Not at all. No.
It was the first time, right? Like how first time somebody getting the DVD in the mail and trying to watch the movie and then thinking to return that DVD without late fee. Wow, that's a different experience, right? But Netflix I did not probably, and I was still young, fresh.
You're so fun, fresh, impressionable. This was happening, right? Okay, so was it fun to see Netflix as it grew and has grown? Was it fun to track along with it? To see that,
absolutely. Yeah. All these companies, I have seen them many of these companies, let me put it that way, when they were in infancy, small size, and now where they are, it's good to kind of relive some of those memories and good to see that how they have progressed.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So then you ended up, I'm not doing this necessarily in chronological order, but you also were at Facebook, and I think you told me when they were less than 200 people. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. Even I don't remember the chronological order with the companies that I work with now. It's a good strategy, Ravin, but Facebook, when it was, I would say less than 200 people,
Wow. Okay. So you were rubbing elbows with Mark and you were seeing people. I mean, you were there. Everyone was kind of interconnected, very interconnected at that point.
Well, very, very much so. Yeah. I mean, I think I still remember one of the evenings and it was like, again, Facebook, early days, there was not much of like what time you work. It's just you work. That's it. Or what day you work, you just work. Whether it's a weekend, weekdays. And I still remember one of the evenings when something was being discussed with one of the engineers about privacy. And suddenly Mark appears in that discussion and he listens to it and he starts coding. And in 10 minutes, he starts writing some code. And I think he sat there for about a couple of hours to finish something and give it to that engineer that, okay, maybe you can incorporate this into the privacy model. It was a surprising, phenomenal experience.
Yeah, like leading from the front. So you're in the room, Mark's there, he's coding, you're watching, you're all in this solving a problem together. Is that correct?
Exactly. So it was surprising to see Mark still being able to code and then deliver the product kind of in 2-3 hours. So, so good experience, I would say.
So what if you were to combine knowledge like, Walmart.com, Netflix, Facebook, early days, what are some lessons you learned from those different experiences that you still use today?
I think, the key thing that I have experienced is, bias for action, and which is also, I think, one of the values of Amazon, which I think has worked out pretty well. That what these things, what I saw common thing was that these guys were not like, none of them were kind of, going into analysis paralysis mode. You think of the idea, you value, you evaluate it with some, high level parameters based on your experience, based on your market research, and then just do it. If you do it, worst thing that can happen is it could fail, and it sooner that you don't have to go in that direction.
Right. All right. Yeah.
So that was, I think, very consistently I saw with all these different startups that I worked with. And I think the other thing was the team. Those were I think, two key traits that I noticed.
Okay, so like a great team, a well-oiled team, and then, propensity for action, right? To keep moving and keep taking action, sounds like fast decision-making, make decisions fast, right?
Exactly. Very, very fast decision-making. And that is what I think it helped me to shape my career as well.
Yeah.
Be ready to make the decisions with a very limited parameters and use your experience.
So let's talk about that, because I love that, because, is there a formula here? Netflix, Walmart.com, Facebook, other major iconic brands. How do you evaluate an opportunity when you're looking at a company to join or become part of a team? What are some things that you think through?
I think a couple of things that probably I can summarize is one is definitely what kind of, the domain it is in.
Okay.
Like Facebook, when I joined Walmart.com, it was a retail, for me, it was a first time experience, but a giant retail domain. So Facebook was a social networking when I did not know what was social networking, or when I worked with the Venue Next, which was a sports related, startup started with a Levi's Stadium in the Bay Area, Santa Clara.
Yeah.
That was a sports domain which I had never worked in. So I think I look at the new domains and new opportunities. There are certain domains which I will never be interested in, but there are domains which I love to explore and learn more about.
Okay, so passion. What I'm hearing is you have to have a passion for it, right?
That is one.
Yeah. Okay.
The second team I also look at, the founding team. Sometimes, for example, in Facebook's case, they did not have the past successful experience, but I think the founders were quite driven.
Yeah.
Similarly, if I look at Venue Next kind of experience, so, there was a lot of past success associated with Jed York, the owner of 49ers, and who was instrumental in building this company, Venue Next. So I think that is the other thing that I look at it in terms of what is the history of, what is the pedigree of founders, how committed they are. And I think these are the two primary things that I try to look for. And then I think rest, the opportunities, whether it's a career opportunities or the financial rewards, they all come along with that.
Okay, so stay focused on that, and then the financial rewards and whatnot, they're byproducts of that, right? Exactly. They come out of that successful collaboration. What magic do you feel that you bring to the table? You've obviously had some amazing moments. When you look back, what were some things that you were like, yeah, this is what I contributed, or this is the magic that I bring, this is the strength that I add to the team?
Well, I think primarily, I think I bring the experience from the past. Okay. Whatever I learned with working with this, great talent over a period of time, great companies, seeing their execution, I think it helps to bring a perspective on the table to say that, there are ways to do things differently. Maybe this is not the right way, and let's explore the alternatives. I think that is probably the biggest value add, I would think.
So like what I'm hearing is wisdom. Because you have a lot of experience, you can help these teams and say, look, I can look around the corner on this one, or have you thought about that? Is that correct?
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Okay. What was some memorable? You mentioned Facebook with Mark. Were there any other memorable leadership stories? You just saw really awesome leadership examples of people demonstrating servant leaderhood or leadership or any other form of leadership that stuck with you that you thought was, yeah, that's a good way to lead a company.
Sure. I mean, I think I mean, a couple of things, couple of instances that I can very like even in my most recent experience. I'm working with a startup here in Valley, and founders are kind of great experienced founders. I feel that they take like the decision making is very bold and very quick. Like we have changed our business or we have transformed our business from just logistics business to financial services product offering and marketplace offering almost overnight, which I have not seen that kind of bold decision making in past. So that is one I would say. Even at my Venue Next experience, when I was working with my CEO and Jed York, etc., it was a great experience in a sense that that's where I think the leadership plays a role for driving to success. So like Levi Stadium, if you think about it, it's about 80,000 capacity.
Yeah.
And it was inaugurated in I think 2014 or so, I believe. And so we were kind of building the product, and our goal was that one of the features of our product was that the fans or the visitors could order the food through their mobile app, and we used to call it as in-seat delivery. So the goal was that you will get your food within 5 minutes, any part of the stadium.
Wow.
So that is how the goal was set. Now, as you can imagine, that you cannot test this kind of scenarios unless you have 80,000 people.
Yeah.
And you cannot bring the 80,000 people. So we were all wondering how to do this, what to do this. And Jed was kind of, don't worry about it. We will test this in our first preseason game, when we really had about 60,000, 70,000 people occupying the stadium. And we did our product testing, many of the features, during our actual production product event, during the live event. And that was something that I was really impressed with, the way he took the risk, he made the decision, and gave the confidence to the team.
That's it, my friend. That was perfect.
Yeah. So it was a great experience to see it, because you feel that, yeah, there is this noise of 60,000 people in the stadium. There is this, game is going, exciting game is going, and you are trying to figure out, okay, that seat is ordering this hamburger. Yeah. How to make sure that you deliver it in 5 minutes.
I mean, that's about as live as it gets, right? From your work to right there. There's no what is happening right exactly. There. It's instant, right? So I love that. Any words of wisdom, any final words of wisdom you would say for somebody coming into the Valley who wants to have impact, work with iconic brands, right? Help launch some incredible ideas?
Yeah, I think my experience says that, if you are in a valley, try to explore, try to take the benefit of it. If you are sitting somewhere in Arkansas, then you can only work with Walmart.
Yeah.
If you are in Valley, you have the opportunity. So don't get stuck with one place. Try to explore, and especially during your early part of your career when you have the opportunity. And be bold. And I think that helps.